Hey everybody, welcome. Is this our third or
Hello.
fourth session? Third,
I think
fourth,
I think it's a fourth if we
fourth one.
count
It's already flying by.
the very much.
Okay. Okay, we'll go ahead and get started. So welcome to Pitch Mastery Week 4. Sorry, I have to get rid of this. Okay. Um, so just kind of a little bit different this week. We're gonna have really simple housekeeping notes, which I'll get to in a second. We have three mentors on the call. Third should be joining shortly, and which will introduce. I forgot to put in here the most important part, which is our actual presentation from Mr. Ken Burke, who's on the call, who will give a 20-minute talk on the topic at hand, which is pitch mastery. And then it's a little different. We're not doing breakouts. We're going to spend the rest of the time on hot seats. So giving as many of you as possible, since this is a pitch session, as many as you as possible to do your 60-minute, 60-second pitch. And if all three mentors rate and give feedback. If you have not been given hot seat time yet, so be prepared. You'll be called on. If we have time, we're going to keep going. So everyone should be prepared. So we have one housekeeping item. The housekeeping item is do your homework. We've noticed a little bit of slowdown in the last week or two. It's not optional. We do track it. It is part of the program. We do track it very carefully and read it and make sure and review, make sure that you're actually being thoughtful about it. It is part of getting through this program. We don't uh, we don't really have a carrot, but we do have a stick in that if you are consistently not turning in or completing homework, we might give you an epic sprint, which I understand is a lot more of a lift than even that you're already taking on. So, Reed or Ken, anything to add there?
I'm actually going to hand this one over to Stefan because Stefan's really good about the give him the it gets harder speech, Stefan.
Oh wow, putting me on the spot here.
Yeah.
So maybe I do introduce myself in a second, but what generally happens in life if you start stumbling, if you screw up, life gets harder, and that's the same thing for Founder Institute. So it's so important that you put in the work for for really leaning in and understanding what you need to deliver when building a company. So I would leave it with that. I don't want to come off too harsh here, um, as I haven't met
Sorry.
anybody yet.
Uh that I did put Stefan on the spot. Stefan is my former co-director of Founder Institute, so we're feel very lucky to have him come back and I get to use this chance to, bring out the oldies, the hits.
Blame
So.
Stefan. All
I'll
right.
give him
Also, I
taste
forgot we
today.
have another managing director on the call with Ben. So yeah, we have a collection of people who know uh, how hard epic sprints can be. So thanks.
Good. Okay. So I think we're going to go ahead with our mentor introductions, if that makes sense. And then we're going to talk a little bit how the rating system works after this. So, Ken, do you want to introduce yourself?
Sure. Hey, everyone. My name is Ken Burke, CEO of Microcasting. We are actually an AI agentic engagement platform for e-commerce. We'll talk a little bit more about it in my presentation, only because I use it as some examples. But what's great is I love being a practicing entrepreneur. I've got three businesses right now, and so I can share whatever experience that I have from the field. My prior experience, I ran a software platform, SaaS-based e-commerce platform company. Gartner Forrester ranked at $2 billion a year in online sales, and it was led and backed by Sequoia Capital. So gone through that experience as well in terms of pitching to one of the premier VCs out there as well. So happy to share all that experience with you, and great to be here. Thank you.
Also a not infrequent speaker at Columbia Business School in
My
entrepreneurship
my
classes.
favorite thing to do.
Yes, of course, because we get to see each other, and as much as we can get to New York, we have
It
Ken
is great. It gives me a
inside
great
the class.
excuse to get. I'm over here in California, so I love coming to New York. So that's one of my favorite things.
Awesome. Stefan.
All right, now the official introduction. Thank you so much, first of all, of having me. Very, very nice to meet everyone. As Reed mentioned, I was the previous director of Founder Institute, had the pleasure of running this program for about 2 years together with Reed. Went through the program before myself, started a company, failed, made all the mistakes in the book. So everything that I share today comes from a place of desperation and hardship along the way. I have, besides that, I've been working in a sales environment over the last 15 years, really. Over the last, I don't know, 5+ years in sales operations, revenue operations, from really scaling teams from 2+ to 10 to now supporting 300 sellers at a company called Bamboo HR. So from starting a company to scaling a company, have seen a lot of variety in the driver's seat in quite a few situations. So excited to be here. If I'm harsh, it comes from a place of love and support, and with the intention to make you better. And my feedback is just one of many, so don't take it too hard. It's only if you see a repeating pattern that you really should pay attention to it. So yeah, looking forward to the session. So great to be back.
Okay, and I think I saw Ben on the call.
Hey Laura,
Hi.
evening everyone. My name's Ben. So I used to run Founder Institute in Toronto, as I mentioned in the chat. The epic sprints will accelerate your company, but they're definitely difficult, so do try and avoid them, guys. But the kind of how I arrived in kind of startup world, and especially at FI, was very much through helping founders with their pitches, with their decks. I kind of grew up in Founder Institute in Toronto over the course of about 10 years. I helped run programs there from 2014 until 2020. And I was working at Founder Institute HQ in California on the operations team, overseeing about 30 programs globally. While I was there, I advocated for and kicked and screamed until this pitch session got put back into the curriculum. So you're welcome. And outside of that, I run Pitchfork, which is essentially a small studio agency where we work with Series A and above founders kind of on their pitches and presentations directly. And then we have a bunch of community-driven and education programs for idea stage and seed stage companies. To date, helped raise about 200 million across all sectors, all verticals, work a ton with veterans, ton in the US, ton in the Middle East, ton in Europe, just kind of all over. So yeah, very much looking to give in some feedback this evening.
Great, welcome. All right, so just to review the hot seats and the ratings and kind of level set. So I think it was Stefan that mentioned that don't worry about low ratings. I'm sure most of you are used to getting good grades, but here's what it actually means. It is 1 through 5 with no 3. So Ken and Stefan and Ben.
Okay.
Ken, this is your first time doing it. You can't choose a 3, and we'll actually cue you in to show how many fingers 1 through 5. 1 means we don't understand what you do, or it's not viable. 2 is okay, we get it, but really not sure if it's scalable. Is there like clear value proposition? Is there a competitive mode? That kind of thing. 4 is actually a very high score. It means that as a mentor, you would potentially come on board as an advisor. So it's really saying a lot to get a 4. And a 5 is even like, this is really great. I would put money in today. I haven't seen any 5s so far. I've been in a few, maybe 4 or 5 sessions so far. The mentor.
Patty's going to be mad if I don't say that Patty got a 5, and she got a 5 from Rose, which is pretty impressive.
Okay,
but,
all right.
So there's been 1 5. You need to call. Unfortunately, Rose doesn't have a lot of money, so sorry on the investment.
But Reed, I will also temper that by saying we all got a note that our previous mentors, not on this call, but in the previous couple calls, were being too nice. Yes, and that's why we're going over the ratings again. All right, any questions from the mentors or anybody else on the ratings or homework or anything else? We definitely want to get to as many pitches as possible. Right. Okay. If your name is here, it's because you have not pitched yet. So I will stop sharing and we'll get to the hot seats after Ken presents. But just so you all have it in mind, you should all be ready to pitch, especially if you have not pitched yet, you will be called first. So would love to hand it over to Ken.
Great. All right. Thank you so much. I'm just going to queue up the presentation real quick. Sorry to look at my desktop, but it is the best thing we got going on here. Let me switch over my display and everybody can see my screen okay here. We're good. All right. We're going to talk about mastering your pitch, which is it's a super exciting topic. And I'm glad you guys are doing this. This is going to be lessons learned. I pitched a lot. I'm still pitching. As an entrepreneur, as a serial entrepreneur, as everybody, all of our mentors and Founders Institute folks know that you're always pitching. You're always selling. And Stefan, as the leader of 300 people at Bamboo HR, is it not more true than anything else that your whole team is just selling every day? Every entrepreneur is a salesperson, I think anyway, as well. You need to be as well. So I'm going to talk about 3 areas. One is your pitching style, which I think is really important. And I think it is a very big contributor to whether or not you're going to get funded or not. Second thing I'm going to talk about is the actual pitch itself. I can't go through clearly the deck. I mean, that's a course at Columbia that people go through. But I do want to cover some basic things that I've learned. And then funding strategies, which I'm going to end with a little bit of advice for you based on what I've learned over my 25 plus years doing this as well. All right, so we're going to start with kind of your pitching style. I think this is really, really important because as you can tell, I'm already kind of at a 9 or a 10 anyway, and this is my normal style. I'm not putting on a show for you guys or anything, but you are on stage. When you're pitching, when you're selling, I don't care what you're doing, the passion that you have for your business and what comes out is wildly important on how you talk. So if you're normally at a 2, I want you to be at a 5. If you're normally at a 5, I want you to be at a 7 or 8. If you're normally at 10, maybe you come down to 9 because not everybody can take a 10. And I'm kind of like that 9, 10. And sometimes I have to remember to slow down a little bit. And that's just been my entire existence. But I got to tell you, that energy is infectious. I have sold more multi-million-dollar deals on high energy and passion in my prior business, my e-com business. Our platform was on average about $500,000 to start. We would sell $1 million deals all the time. And I got to tell you, that's what does it. And I'm sure Stefan and others can attest to the fact that passion goes a long way in the sales process. And this is part of the sales process. So a couple of things I just want to make sure, this is really stupid, but when you're doing a Zoom meeting, you're not looking down, you're not looking over here, you're not looking over here, you're looking at the camera. I just have to say it because I've seen pitches where you're not making eye contact. Number 101 in media training is you make eye contact with the camera. I'm staring at you right now, as you can tell, probably looking at my slides, but I'm staring at you. That's very important to make a connection with the person on the other side. Number 2, if you're in person, you need to command the room. That means you talk a little bit louder, maybe a little bit faster. You talk from your heart and your gut up through your mouth. I know it sounds strange, but I have to say it. It's part of the process. All right. That's all I'll say about it, but it's really important. I got to tell you. Number 2, they got to feel you and they got to feel your energy. They invest in you and your business. Keep that in mind. Investors invest in you and your business. All right. Number 2, lose your ego. I got to tell you, you walk in with a chip on your shoulder, you walk in arrogant, egotistical, or something like you think you're hot about your background, they will cut you down. Go to Sequoia Capital and try that. You'll be cut down in about 2 seconds after your pitch, okay? And they have no problem in stopping you as well, because I've lived that life. Although I didn't go in with a chip on my shoulder. I think it's great to be confident and to be excited about the business, all the things, but to be arrogant, nobody wants to invest in somebody that's arrogant, okay? So enough said about that. If that's an issue or you've ever gotten that feedback, be very aware, okay? Because that's a big stumbling block. Because as an investor, I got to work with you for the next up to 10 years. Sequoia Capital and a couple other VCs had to work 10 years before I sold the company. And if they think you're a jerk, they don't want to work with you, okay? I know it goes without saying, but it doesn't go without saying. All right, focus, number 3. I could go on an hour about focus and how important it is to focus your strategy, but I do a lot of mentoring at Columbia Business School, and I love it. And the first time I get the students sometimes, I look at their business strategy and I'm like, it's like, what what are you doing? My head is ping-ponging. And I would think these are people that are actually going through pretty sophisticated program, an excellent program, but they're all over the map. And a lot of times what I end up doing more than anything is focusing their strategy first. And I just did a mentor session a couple of weeks ago. The guy actually won the AI competition. I was thrilled. But when he first presented, I was kind of overwhelmed a little bit. And I'm like, oh my God, please narrow this down. I got to tell you, the success in in a lot of businesses, the more you can niche, the better you are. Let me give you a quick example. My business, very quickly, we're an agentic customer engagement engine for e-commerce. That means that I could have done anything with this agentic solution. I can go into medical, I can go into financial services, but I chose, because of my background, to go into e-commerce. And now I get to talk with every large e-commerce provider out there doing billions of dollars of commerce, and they'll take my call. Why? The other thing that I did, and this is very important, I've also already become the leader in the industry. And I just started like 6 months ago, right? We released our technology. We have customers under our belt, finally, more so than most other people out there. But I'm talking about like 10, not like 100, okay? And they're just starting too. I barely have stats on things, but I got to tell you, we're already taking a commanding lead because we niched into one area of agentic technology, okay? So take that for what it's worth. And that's something I'm going to be looking for in your pitches, and I'm sure all of the mentors are going to be as well. Keep it simple. People don't invest in things they don't understand. So I had another, I was mentoring another student, and they start using these financial terms. I don't come from the financial industry, and they were talking way above my head. And I don't know if they were doing it to, quote unquote, impress me or impress the investor or what. Don't do that, because nobody wants to make it feel like they're stupid. And your investors have to understand the business clearly. But you might be coming at like AI, and it's some new stuff out there, but it's evolving very quickly. And if you try to impress them with all of your knowledge, they may not be so impressed. So keep it simple at the same time. I got to be able to understand it to invest in it. Demo or not to demo, okay? This is a question I get asked a lot. Should I demo in presentation? And I bet, as Stefan said, I loved what he said about, hey, take my opinion. That's one of many opinions. You might you might like it, you might not like it. Take it for what it's worth. In other words, if you hear a trend, then maybe there's something there. I say the exact same thing. Feedback, be very cautious on anything I say as well. So I'm going to caveat this with just a grain, just a little bit of thought here. My rule is, if you're going in, you're doing a 5-minute pitch, it's going to be really hard to do a demo, because what you're going to end up doing, or a 10-minute pitch, really hard to do a demo. But if you're you're a little bit later stage in the process, or you're a little bit down the road, or maybe you're doing a half-hour or hour presentation, maybe inserting a demo. But please, please, please make the demo extremely well scripted. You do not want to be clicking around, stumbling. Oh, that wasn't supposed to happen. Oh, that's not over here. Make it scripted as much as humanly possible. Test it out right before you do the demo and make sure it works. Keep it down to like 2, 3, 4 minutes. Here's what entrepreneurs, they love their product. They love talking about features. They love talking about everything it does. And you get so caught up in that, you lose the rest of the presentation, right? And you're also losing the reason why that investor is listening to you as well. And we'll get to that in just a second about keeping things to standards. All right, you don't have to be a know-it-all. I think you guys already have heard this one, but a lot of entrepreneurs get caught up in the fact that they have to answer every question on the spot, and they have to prepare for it. They get anxious, they get fearful, and then maybe they're not able to pull it off. I got to tell you, saying, I'm not sure about that, I need to go back and either do some research on that. Now, if the question is, what's your business model, or what's your go-to-market strategy, and you can't answer that, yeah, you should be thrown out of the room immediately, okay? Or what your problem statement is, or whatever. Those are the basics, right? But if they're going to ask you some obscure question and you're like, you know what, I do need to do some more research on that. I know that's important. I'm going to get back to you on that, right? Like CAC. CAC, actually, you should know, just FYI. That's not a good one not to know, right? But there could be some more obscure statistics on your financials or on other things that you may not be able to answer, or you need to pull in somebody else. That's okay. All right. So I want to make sure that you're okay with that. And then I got to tell you, on style points, do not exaggerate anything. We're entrepreneurs. We're all entrepreneurs. And the first thing we do is, it's not our fault that we exaggerate things. It's in our system. It's innate to our human being as an entrepreneur, not as a human, but as an entrepreneur, our entrepreneur being, that we look at things from an optimistic perspective, and you can't help it, right? I call it blind optimism. And blind optimism is good. It's a very good thing. But you don't want to be so optimistic that you're exaggerating things that actually don't exist, right? If you have 5 beta customers and you say you have 10, don't do that. If you have 3 people in contract, but you only have 1, don't do that. And more importantly, If you have money that isn't committed, that you say is committed or you think might be committed next week, say exactly where it's at, because they will find out. And nothing will blow a deal more than just an inkling that you're exaggerating something or you're quote unquote fibbing or whatever you want to call it. All right. Next thing, I'm sorry I talk fast, but I got a lot to say. All right, the pitch itself. I can't go through the entire pitch, but I do want to cover a couple of things. One, don't reinvent the wheel. And I think you're learning in the Founders Institute what the standards are. Stick to the standards. You can customize around the edges. But I also see some slides when I'm mentoring at Columbia. I see some slides that are obviously missing. They're like, well, where's that slide, right? It's like, just like go to market. I don't know why. I know they teach it there, but there's no go to market slide. Nobody's going to invest if they don't know the go to market. Okay. So I see that missing. I see competitive matrix missing. I've actually included a couple of those in this presentation because I want to show you them. And the most important slide of all is a solution slide, and people do it wrong. And I think they do it wrong. So I'll give you my opinion. But next thing, real quick, the problem statement. Let me tell you, when I was pitching to Sequoia, second round, I'm sitting in the room with Mike Moritz, Samira Gandhi, and Doug Leone. Okay. These guys you could Google if you don't know their names because, well, they're famous basically. And I'm in the room. This is a long time ago, so they weren't who they were, but they had invested in Google and all of that. Got many stories around that as well. And I didn't get past my problem. And now they'd already invested in me, so they didn't kick me out of the room. But it did damage to my overall reputation as a CEO because I was too optimistic. Just my nature is optimistic, and I couldn't get past the problem slide. In other words, they kind of stopped me on that slide. We spent like time on that slide, and I lost the audience. Here's my point. The problem slide is the first thing that you hit them through the bullseye with. That means you've got to really nail the problem slide. And you need to not state the solution in the problem slide like so many people do. It is just about pain. You want to create, and you want to be hard hitting. That means it needs to be usually a big problem with a lot of pain or a huge need. Now, I know you're learning about all of this and you're going to build the perfect problem slide, but it's a really, really hard slide to build. So pay particular attention to the problem slide and make it as hard hitting as it possibly can be. If you're kind of obscure about the problem, they're probably not going to invest. They want to invest in a huge problem with a big upside, right? That's where they get that from. At least that's what I've seen. Next slide that follows the problem slide is the solution slide. Here's what I like my solution slide to be. It's the benefits, not the features of the product. Here's what most people do. The next slide after the problem slide is the product, right? Great. That's not the solution, in my opinion. The first slide you want to show, and I actually think I'm going to go to it right now, I think is the most powerful slide in my deck because I can see it, I can read the room, and I can grab people with it, which is I talk about what's in it for my customer, what's in it for me, right? That's all that anybody cares about. I talk about the benefits first of my product. I'm going to increase your conversion rate. I'm going to increase your renewal rates. I'm going to make your upsells better. I'm going to increase your sales pipeline, your average order size, your customer engagement overall. I'm going to move you from 5 minutes on the site to 8 minutes on the site. I'm going to take your conversion rate from 1.2 to 2.5 or whatever it is. That is a slide that the end customer, whoever I'm selling to, cares about the most because that's the business value in the slide. That's a solution. What's in it for me? What am I benefiting from all these features you have and all this product? How is my business going to benefit? Now, this sounds like a nuance. Everybody misses this one. I don't know why, but everybody kind of misses this one because we all love our product, okay? So just keep that in mind. Talk about, you can talk features at some point, but benefits are what actually people will pay attention to. Now, this one might be a little controversial, but I'll say it anyway because I believe it, is have a team. If you are a solo entrepreneur and you're going at it your own way, that's fine. Then have some advisors around you that you can put as part of your team on the team slide. But I got to tell you, investors typically like to invest in more than one person. So if you have a CTO, if you have a CRO, which I had both of, and my team slide has 3 people on it. It looks identical to the slide that introduced us earlier with some bio information on the background. Very simple, but my team has over 25 years experience, each one of us in e-commerce. That means it's like 75 years of combined experience. We have lived this. So you know where my team slide is? This is unusual. It's number 2. It's literally the number 2 slide. Then I talk about the problem because that is a huge selling opportunity for us to investors because we are uber experienced in this industry. We built one of the largest e-com platform companies in the world. Gartner and Forrester ranked, did $2 billion a year in online sales for our customers. At the time in 2010, 2011, 2012, 2015, that was a big deal. So I lead with that. Next one, be very clear about how you're going to make money. What is your business model? This is another slide that gets missed a lot. You talk about all these other things, but you don't actually say, how am I actually going to make money? What's my pricing model? Is it SaaS? Is it usage-based? Is it subscription usage-based? What is it, and what does it look like in terms of, am I charging $1,000 or am I charging $10,000? So you're kind of integrating pricing strategy with how I'm going to make money, which is the model as well, okay? So that's really, really important. Next thing is the competitive matrix. Now, there's a lot of ways to do your competitive matrix. I've seen where people do feature comparisons and feature charts. I actually don't like that strategy nearly as much as, I'm going to show you, the competitive matrix. And by the way, if you're not sure about competitive matrix, how it works, I'm sure there's a course on it. I also have an online course on this. In fact, I have an online course on everything that's all free for you guys. Anybody that wants it, of course, I'll make it available to you. But basically, it's about 30 minutes on how to put together a competitive matrix. You kind of need a little education because they're not as intuitive as you think. So you need to ask one of your mentors here or what have you if you do get stuck. Basically, I just want to show you what a competitive matrix looks like. If you haven't seen one, XY axis, you want to be up and to the right. So how you do this very quickly is you take your two strongest advantages, competitive advantages, and that becomes your XY coordinate, and you create the range from that. Again, I'm not going to go into the details of this. This does two things. It presents your competitive landscape very clearly, and it says why you're the best and how you're going to be the best, right? This can be aspirational as well, like where you're going. You don't have to actually be there, okay? Next thing, this is, again, my advice is be aggressively believable on your financial forecast. What I mean by this is really important. If you go in with lackluster financials and you go, I'm going to grow from $1 million to $1.5 million to $2 million to $2.5 million over 4 or 5 years, okay, that's boring. Now, again, I don't want to, maybe for that, your business and your industry, that's spectacular and that's fine, but it's not a business I want to invest in. If you also go in and go, I'm going to go from $1 million to 10 million to 100 million to 500 million, or I just made those numbers up, really exaggerated. Okay, people are going to look at that and go, that's not believable. And you'll have to justify that. I don't have a lot of time to talk about justified financials, but every financial that you do, every revenue line item you have has to be backed up with a line item of expenses, specifically sales and marketing, period. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. You have to know how you've actually calculated your revenue line items, okay? That's wildly important because you will be asked about it. So as you're doing this, this kind of fits into this idea of aggressively believable. So I like to use this rule. I didn't make this rule. I've heard it before. I've used it many, many times, and I've advised on it as well. It's the 3-3-2-2 rule. And again, I don't even know it has a name, but I had to give it a name for this presentation and for others. So I'll use it 3-3-2-2, which is if you're gonna have a starting year, your year one might be $1 million in revenue, might be $500,000. Typically, what I've seen is if you triple revenue from year 1 to year 3, go from $1 million to $3 million, $3 million to $6 million, $3 million to $9 million, excuse me, $9 million to $18 million, $18 million to $36 million. That would be the 3-3-2-2 rule. Okay, I don't want to. I know that your guys are learning a lot, and this might contradict other things you're learning. I've just seen this work for a lot of tech type businesses and AI businesses and things like that. And so it's conservative enough, but very aggressive. So it's aggressively believable. That's at least what I found on my financials. It's a good rule of thumb. I'm not saying you have to be exact with it. And if it doesn't resonate with you, throw it out. All right, last thing, and then I'm going to wrap up here. I want to make sure I stay on time, is funding strategies. Just have 4 of them that I want to talk about real quick here. And this is a lot for you and doing what's right for you in the business as well. First of all, build then raise. This is really answering the question, when do I raise? Okay, this is a big question, so I'm going to do it quickly. But basically, there are different stages that you can raise at. PowerPoint, prototype, MVP, and ding, ding, ding customers. Let me tell you what I did with my AI business, right? So I have 65 customers. Okay, thank goodness. On my new product, I've got about 5 quote unquote betas and paying customers as well. We're at the post, we're not proven to scale. That's kind of the next level, but we're kind of proven that we have paying customers and we have a lot of people that are happy with our product, right? So that's great. Now, I don't think you need 60 customers. It just happens that I funded the business and to date and have been a little bit like, do I want to raise money? Do I not want to raise money? So on and so forth. So I've pushed it as far as I possibly can. And now at least I have a portfolio of customers that I can go out with, and it makes the investor know, hey, you've really got something here, but you're not all at that stage and I get it. So you might be at PowerPoint. It's really hard to raise on a PowerPoint unless you have an amazing reputation or come from an incredible school where people just want to give you money, right? And that happens in a couple of cases as well. And I won't reference them right now, but it can happen. Prototype is great, and they can see something. They know you might be able to build something. MVP is better. And so you can see your valuations will go up the farther you go on this continuum, most likely, right? So the farther you get to that. So I'm not saying you have to self-fund, because I've self-funded to about $1 million. That's over $1 million in my business. And it's taken a couple of years for us to get where we are. It's not overnight at all. And we still got a long way to go. But when I go out to fund, I'm going to have an easier time, possibly, it's never easy, to get money than if I was just at a PowerPoint, as is obvious, right? So I always say go as far as you can. Now, next thing, I'm going to skip over point 2 and go to point 3 for a moment, which is stair step your raise. This is another thing that might be controversial, but my rule is don't raise as much as you possibly can. Raise what you need for the next 18 months to 2 years, period, full stop. Stair step your investment. I am a cheap entrepreneur. I got to tell you, I covet thy equity. In other words, when I won't tell the Sequoia story, but basically when I sold my company, I had about 20% equity. Now, I think everyone mentors in the room from Silicon Valley says, if you have 20% equity in your company when you sold, that is a win for the entrepreneur. So I want you to covet thy equity, which I did. I fought for every dime. Sequoia used to laugh at me, and they used to argue with me over this. You're the only entrepreneur in our portfolio that has a carve out. Da, 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 da. I won't explain what a carve out. I mean, I heard it all. I mean, da, 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 da. And I ignored all of it because my nature was, I'm going to keep as much equity as I can. Okay. So when I say stair step, that's kind of about coveting thy equity as well. First of all, don't be giving out equity when you don't need to. Partners, other things, that's a whole different discussion I won't get into. And then please, 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 if you do have partners or anything, and you're the leader, you're the entrepreneur, vest their equity. In other words, make sure you have a vesting schedule for everybody but you, okay? If you can do it, right? Except for investors. It's another side note. Okay. Stair stepping your raise, basically what you want to do is you want to raise, build, raise, build, raise, build. So I like to raise 1.5 to 2 million, and it's just my number. That could be different for you. And then I'm going to go prove my model with that 1.5 million and make it a lot more valuable. Then I'm raising on a lot higher multiple and giving away a lot less to the company. Okay. Finally, raise, I suggest, between 1.2 to 1.5% of your operational plan. That is in quotes because that might be different than, and I'm not saying you have 2 sets of books, but you put out a aggressive plan or a believably aggressive plan. But then in the background, you have an operational plan because you have to actually, function on that. They should be the same plan, but they're not always the plan. That might be the little bit more conservative plan. That's the plan I'm talking about. You want to be careful in terms of what your raise is, that you're going to have enough money, but not too much money. That's my philosophy in that. All right. I could talk a lot more. I'm going to end right now because I'm at my time or over my time. Happy to answer any questions or hand it back to Laura.
Thank you so much. We really tried to find someone with more energy, but we ended up with Ken. So we'll have to do it. That was awesome. I wrote down a bunch of things myself that I've seen over and over again from students and alumni pitching. I love the sell benefits, not features one. That is one that I will remember that and bring that up when I speak to entrepreneurs as well. So if we have a little time for Q&A, we have a couple questions in the chat. Jane, do you want to ask your question?
I think it already got answered. Thank you in the chat.
Okay. Let's see. Demo deck, Daniel, demo first or deck first? Not sure I understand that. Do you want to explain that?
Yeah, so we have a demo and we have a deck, and just in terms of which one to lead with, because I think if it's like a 5-minute pitch, sometimes if you lead with the demo, people might be left wondering, what's the context of this, or you feel like you're over explaining it, versus a deck. When you lead with the deck, people get a bit snooze, and then you end up with the demo. Like, why didn't you show us the demo in the beginning? You ran out of time. Anyway. Just curious your thoughts.
I mean, I'll tackle that, and please, any of the mentors also, please interject. If you're doing a 5-minute pitch and you're doing just the demo and you leave out the problem, the solution, any of the really business-oriented things, and you're talking to an investor, they need to know that in order to get you to the next line. They don't need to see a demo. Now, I have a very simple demo. I can do a demo with my agentic technology in about a minute or two. And so I've actually tested in the sales process of starting with that. And I was pitching Staples 2 weeks ago when I started with the agentic, let me show you what it is first. And then I got to my deck. I thought it was pretty engaging, but I will tell you, I usually go my deck first and then I do a demo in a sales world. I think in 5 minutes, it's going to be really hard to get a demo in. And if it's the only thing you do, then you need to get some slides in as well, because they expect it as well. That's my opinion. But anybody else?
I agree. I think in those early meetings, and especially 5 minute pitch, they want to hear you.
Mm,
Maybe
mm.
you show screenshots or something like that of your demo, but they want to hear you. Generally, they want to hear you talk through it and hear about your vision and how you position it.
Yeah, thank you both. A friend of mine was saying that he often assumes that the demo works or like the tech works, and that
Yes.
he'd rather hear more kind of about your business models and other stuff you were talking
Well,
about.
and the other thing about a demo is you as an entrepreneur, I just can't tell you how many times I've done a demo in a sales process or whatever, but salespeople are really good about jumping around. It can throw you off. I know you can have it all scripted and click on every button, but your brain is in
Mm,
a different mode than when you're pitching. You notice I
mm,
was I mean, this is my normal way, but I was pitching. I was like, hey guys, I want you to learn this. Boom, right?
yeah,
That's the energy I want. And I don't want you to stumble one bit on, oh, I clicked on the wrong button or
yeah,
JavaScript
exactly.
error came up again.
Yeah,
That's the danger of it, right?
right.
Yeah.
No, absolutely. Thank you both. Thank you.
Daniel, you want to maybe one thing to add. You want to communicate to the audience why I should care about you and why should I
Mm,
listen. Any
mm,
product can be built. The first question that I need to get
mm,
answered is like, should it be built? Is the product good enough that I actually care? If it's
mm.
ChatGPT, you should start with a product demo and throw the pitch deck out of the room. But for the vast majority of products, it's like, tell me why should I care? And that's also the exercise that we go through today. It's like, hey, is there enough that was like, dang, I need to meet you for another meeting because I
Mm.
really want to dive in.
Yeah,
And
start with why.
and just maybe like a quick footnote to all that as well. Like, think about what the pitch is, right? At these kind of early stages, it's very likely that what you're doing is at least adjacent to products they've already seen. They're not necessarily going to see something that's totally unique. Stefan, to your point, if it's ChatGPT, you're gonna melt someone's face. But if you don't, then there is a the navigator is more important, right? Like, who is going to
Mm,
take this product in its current form and take it
mm.
forward 10, 15 steps that
Mm.
we get to tag along for that ride and turn it into this incredible future product, right? We want to
Uh-huh.
figure out who you are, what the product is, but then also where is the ship going and do we want to get on board, right?
Yes, aye, Captain. Thank you, Ben. Yeah.
You're very welcome.
So Brian, you had a question as well. Did you want to ask it? And I think maybe we have time for maybe one or two more questions.
Just on the numbers, Ben kind of already answered in the chat, but mostly it was just on how conservative or aggressive to get on the numbers you put in your deck, because just about everybody I've talked to has said you can't use realistic numbers because the investors are going to discount whatever number is in the deck, and you have to assume they're going to cut that number in half.
My comment is that is true. They want to go in knowing that you're optimistic about the business. I had a CFO that walked into Sequoia Capital over and over again, and would just show that they would want to slit their wrists after they met with him. It's like, why are you doing that, right? That's not what they want to hear. They want to hear you're going to build the next great business. Now, at the same time, if you're too crazy, like I said, my opinion is you can get overly crazy. So you can't be ridiculous, but you need to be aggressive on it. You heard my philosophy as well, but I'd love to hear some others.
The way that you pitch in an investor scenario is a bit of a reflection of how you pitch in a sales scenario as well. And a lot of what the signals that you're looking for in a founder is like, can this founder sell? And who are they going to sell to? And how are they going to sell this? How much money are they going to make? Because how they make money is how I make money ultimately. And so if you give me a very super niche conservative, oh, we could gradually grow X amount year over year. In the next 15 years, we're going to make a profit. It was like, whatever. Like I could get a savings account. I can deploy my money into something other than venture capital. It's not ounce capital, it's venture capital. It's supposed to be, it's a risk. This is industrialized gambling. So like, if you're not going to make big gambles, and I'm not going to play. That being said, there needs to be some rationale to it. So while you can always do big number on slide, and it's like, look at how big this market is, it's also a question of like, well, what is that market made up of? Who is in that market? Who am I going to sell to? Show me signals that like, here's who I'm going to sell to now in the next 6 to 12 months. That will unlock this bigger group of people that I'm going to sell to. And then if we really knock it out the park, there is this kind of, here's the ceiling or this whole universe of people we could possibly sell to. I'm seeing a lot of $1 trillion markets at the moment. That gets a little bit wacky. But in the tens of billions, hundreds of billions, like, you can rationalize whatever number you want. Just help me understand who you're selling to.
Awesome. Okay, yeah, if that's maybe do one more question. George, go ahead.
Yeah, I have a question. What is a good number in your opinion?
There's two ways to split that. I'll be super quick on this point, Ken, because I literally answered this question for a client earlier today. That it depends on how niche your market is. If you're in a market of maybe a handful of competitors, 5 to 10 major players that you can compete with, billions or tens of billions is perfectly fine. If you are in a super crowded market with like thousands of competitors at high levels, at low levels, at mid levels, then the number, it's kind of a ratio, right, of how many people are in the space versus how much of the pie is everyone fighting over. Right? Zillow, for instance, is a great example of like they dominate the real estate listing market, and then there's a bazillion little players fighting over like 2% of the pie, while Zillow is just eating the whole thing, right? So it's really kind of a ratio of how big is the market versus how many players are in it.
Thank you.
All right. Okay, should we get started? Awesome. That was very inspiring. So we're going to do hot seats. Sophie, I'm going to pick on you first because we spoke earlier today and I warned you. I'm also really excited you're putting together a New York meetup. I saw that in the chat. That's awesome.
Yeah, the shameless plug. If you're in New York or think you'll be coming through New York and want to do a co-working meetup, just send your email in the chat. And what a day to pitch. But let's do it. All right, are we all ready?
Go for it.
Raise your hand if you've ever collectively walked 2,650 miles. I have. When I hiked the Pacific Crest Trail, I coined the name Magnet because I brought together a group of hikers with different identities, beliefs to accomplish a shared goal, hiking a long trek. Now, I've created the Magnet Collective, a fellowship for companies to buy and enroll their managers, directors, and culture carriers in to better support them in leading uncomfortable conversations, boosting low morale, and deterring apathy for a company's mission from employees. By bringing the Magnet Collective into your workplace, we can turn return to office policies from a place of frustration and discontent that they are today into a space that is breeding innovation, productivity, and profitability. And I'd love to work alongside you to personalize a fellowship for your workplace context tomorrow. Thank you.
Oh, do we give, how do we
Sorry.
give feedback? I just want to make
I
sure
was
that.
muted. Yeah, but this is my first time too. So the three mentors, when I count down to, thank you, Patty, count down to 3, you're going to hold your fingers up with your rating. And then I'll call on you each to give a couple minutes of feedback as well.
Oh, great.
Okay.
Do we also fill out the form that we were given as well, or is
Yes,
that?
please.
Okay, got it.
Yes. All right. 3, 2, 1. Ken. Okay, go ahead. Yeah. 2 from Ken, 2 from Stefan, Ben, 2.
Total twos, yeah.
All right. Stefan, I'm going to pick on you first.
All right, Sophie, thank you so much for your pitch. A pitch is a storyline that's easy to follow and that builds up momentum and that gets me hooked right away. And the hook potentially is the best thing what Ken mentioned earlier is like hone in on the damn problem really hard so that I know that I should care. I don't care if you hiked or walked 2,000 something miles in a row. Couldn't care less, right? But
Yeah.
if you tell me, if you start with a big problem, here's like 50% of all managers get burned out, 30% drop out of a job. There's a massive gap in the employment market. There's a lack of leadership. I'm the leader myself. This is what I experienced. This is what changed lives afterwards. Now you have a different storyline. So think about the storyline and how you want to communicate that so that you start strong and then add to top on top of that. In the end, it's also the last note here is this fundable? How big is the market? Sounds like a hobby. Is it massive? I just don't know, and I should really care. So try to answer storyline, problem, market opportunity.
That's super helpful. And Stefan, just to plug it, I'd love to talk with you later with your work in sales and operations at Bamboo HR, because ideally this would involve a lot of HR selling. So
There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's it.
All right. Ken.
Yeah, I was first going to suggest a partnership with Stefan, and you got your business going, right? That
That's
right
great.
there, I'd give it a 4. But if you can do that deal real quick, a couple of things. Selling into HR, and excuse Bamboo HR because Bamboo HR is the leader in the industry, and everybody needs it. Take that aside for a moment. Selling into HR is not an easy task. Selling
Yeah.
to employers in general is not. Employers who want to improve their employees is it. Here's the deal. You have a 1, 2, and 3 list, right? And people buy on their 1, 2, or 3. I used to be a 4, 5, and 6 in my other business, and I swapped the business to an AI business, and I focused it, and now I'm a 1 or 2, actually a 1. I can talk to anybody in the industry I want. You're going to struggle to get attention within there, and I've just seen it before. And the other thing I would say is the result. You have to be very clear on the results that you're going to get. I think Stefan said this as well, on the actual results that the employees are going to get because of what you're going to do. And that has to be then translated to an ROI if you're going to have a shot at this. But it's a difficult market. I don't know that I could invest in it just because of the hardness of the market. I loved your story though, but and it was very grabby, but it needed to be a longer presentation so I would get what you did, right? To Stefan's comment.
Just to clarify, by 1, 2, 3, do you mean the decision makers at that company?
Yeah. No, it's a great question. There's a priority list that every company buys from, and any salesperson knows this. You're either on the 1, 2, or 3 list where you'll get considered that year, or you're on below the 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and you ain't going anywhere. In other words, it is not going to happen. It's really hard to sell into a department or an organization if you're not 1, 2, or 3 in the company's priorities that you then solve that problem for when you're selling B2B. Okay, so keep that in mind.
I will also be hitting you up for office hours.
I love it. Oh, please do. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Ben.
Yeah, absolutely. So a couple points. So if you could have given me a little bit more like pragmatic info on how this is a business, that would have been a strong 4, right? So the main things that jump out at me are you're definitely the person to do something like this. The charisma and the storytelling component is definitely there. Diction, delivery, all perfect, right? No problem there. But when we get really, really good at these kinds of things, we tend to kind of veer off into a little bit of abstract territory. Remember, you have way more context on what you're doing than I do. I have no idea what you're working on, right? And I'm not trying to be harsh, but like I still don't understand the product, but I get that whatever the product is, it's very human centric, it's very kind of morale based, and you are most likely the right kind of archetype, the right kind of character to lead something like, especially in a sales conversation. But I don't understand what exactly the product is, other than kind of a general understanding. And this point applies to pretty much everyone this evening. You can't go through the 15 typical topics that you would otherwise in a full pitch deck, in a little pitch like this. What you can do is tell me, what is it that you're tackling? Because what the problem you're tackling is universally understandable. Everyone can understand a cost, a pain point, a need, regardless of what technology you do or what the process is or what the product is. So tell me what the problem is, then tell me what you have done about it, not what you intend to do about it or what you aspirationally think you might do about it. How are you getting off the mark and actually breaking the threshold and doing something, getting out of the lab, out into the world, talking to customers, getting some movement? And then what is your plan for the next 6 to 12, 18 months? Like, what are you going to do about it next? Because if, as an investor, if I jump in, that's where you're going to spend my money. And so if I know what the immediate 6 to 12, 18 months is going to look like, that gives me an idea of like where you are momentum wise and where things are going, right? I didn't get any of those things from you other than that, like, low morale in companies, let's fix it. And that you're probably the person to do that. So throw a bit of that info in there, and then we're ripping and roaring. Okay.
Thanks. I appreciate it. I'm going to find extra time with all 3 of you. So thank you so much.
Well, my wife's having a baby in 3 weeks, and so like I'm probably not going to be doing whole lot of office hours, but you're very welcome to reach out, and I'll send you an email. So
Sounds good.
So yeah.
Thank you, Sophie.
And congrats, Ben.
Thanks.
Okay. Nick, you're up.
Perfect. I'll just go whenever.
Yeah, go for it.
Okay. Hey, everybody. My name is Nick Love, and over 1.2 million new apartments have been created in the United States in just the last 3 years alone. And 65% of renters say that these luxury apartments are the exact same as the last one they rented. Nowadays, tenants are paying more for rent than ever, but getting less that they actually care about. My company, Rebuilt Iconic, is a real estate investment firm that renovates outdated suburban apartments into renter-focused communities that middle-income households are proud to pay more for. While other developers are investing in the same copy and paste strategies as nearby comps, Our resident first upgrades lead to stronger cash flow, lower turnover, and higher asset values that outperform typical returns. In the last 8 years, I've helped private equity firms invest in over 200 million in multifamily real estate, and I've come to believe that we don't just need more apartments, we need better living.
Great. All right, mentors, your ratings in 3, 2, 1.
Oh,
2, 2, and 2. Okay, let's start with Ben this time.
Yeah, absolutely. Good job, Nick. I really like where this is going, right? The main thing that jumps out to me is that there is basically like an ownership crisis, right? Like there's a generation that can't afford to own, but they can afford to rent something probably kind of nice, right? They can afford to rent something for the price of a mortgage versus like actually get into home ownership. So what does that mean? Well, not everybody wants to live in the same kind of millennial gray cube, right? And so I like companies that are aligning with large kind of mega trends so that you can kind of follow in that wake. Stats at the top, I find often like they don't land as heavily. It is accurate what you're saying, but it's difficult to remember it, right? It's like a bazillion jillion apartments and X, Y, and Z percentage of them are like, it's like, okay, I've lost that by, kind of 30, 40 seconds in to the rest because we're thinking about the other stuff. So while it's important, you don't have to necessarily throw out some of those stats. He's like 1 in 4 apartments is of this type, or 1 in 3 people is unable to kind of move into a place that they're actually happy with, or maybe you give me 2 or 3 just short 5 to 10 word quotes from someone. It's like, this is what we experienced here, this is what we experienced here, this is what we experienced here. We're hearing this across the country. Here is what we're going to do about it, right? So the tweaks that I would make to this one, similar to Sophie's, help me understand what the business is, right? I get that you're renovating or kind of upgrading existing housing. Help me understand a little bit more why that's relevant, because we're all aware of the renting crisis and the ownership crisis. I don't need education on that. I want to know what you're doing about it, because most of the solutions at the moment are kind of stale. If this is something new and exciting, let's focus a little more on the value you're bringing to the table. But otherwise, good job, Nick.
Great, Stefan.
My main actual thought while you were presenting was, what does it actually mean? What's better living? It's like, I might have missed it, but I don't know what you actually do different. So answering, okay, hey, this is what it looks like today. This is how we're going to transform it. This is why it's that much better. This is why people actually care. This is why we can actually charge more. Because if you charge the same stuff, like the same dollar amount, who cares? Because if people rent right now, it's like, what is the benefit in the market on how you get people excited and moving? And I'm pretty sure you have the answers. What I really liked is that you have 8 years of experience in the area. It seems like you just hone in on something that you have deeply experienced. But that was like my main thing on top of everything that Ben just shared. I think everything that Ben shared was on point and will help.
Great. Ken.
Great. Yeah. The first thing that I really loved, back same thing Stefan said, is the why you. Why are you right for this? That would compel me to get you to a 4, right? It's like, I want to invest in this guy because he knows, the market. I may not know it as well. Second comment is, I agree on the beginning. I was, the stats were all jumbled all over the place. But when Ben said, demand is outpacing supply and I'm like, okay, now I get it. I almost had to hear him to say it to get it, right? I was also a little distracted, and this is form, and I hate to say it, but I will say it because we're giving good feedback. I think that you read to us your statement, and I saw this also in mentoring Columbia students a lot. I can tell when you're reading. I assume you read, and based on that, I lose the passion. So while it sounded a little bit more robotic to me, so just on form, and let me ask you, did you read, Nick, your pitch? Did not. Okay. Sorry. I picked up on it. I thought that's what
a
you were
lot of
doing.
practice would probably relate the same effect, I imagine.
It felt a little bit robotic, and I didn't feel the energy as much from you as I would. And Sophia was like, I immediately connected with her, right? At a personal level, like, oh my God, I know somebody that did the Pacific Trail. I kind of was, I love the business. You actually gave all the fundamentals, right? I love the business. I wanted to be more engaged with you leading the business. You have the credibility, I just want to know. Anyway, that I misread. I usually can tell when people are reading, but that's what I kind of got that impression. Like, is he not? It made me call it into question. So I'd like to see a little more passion there. Finally, I think you would do well to have a competitive matrix. And the reason I say that is that you bring you brought in the competitiveness. So, and how you're going to be different, but I don't know how you're going to be different, to the other comments as well. A competitive matrix would actually bring that out, especially with your business. I don't know if there are a lot of competitors or a little bit of competitors, and that might have helped get you moved up as well, right? To a 2.5 or a 2.9, or we're not allowed to do percentages, but you know what I mean? If I'm like, wow, you're truly unique, I'm excited. But I have to say, great job on the pitch, by the way. And I felt it was like a really solid pitch, just so you know. Really liked it.
Thanks, Ken. Ben, you had something to add?
Yeah, just a quick note on scripted, because Ken, I think you are actually right. Strictly speaking, that was a scripted pitch, whether it was a read script or not, it was a scripted pitch, right?
Yeah,
and so here's the thing: as founders, I've seen this a bazillion times, is that you tend to kind of put precise, exact, razor sharp wording in place as almost like guardrails or training wheels to try and get through the pitch, because it's scary. This whole thing is scary, right? But the tricky thing is that if we lock into just one way of doing things, you're sprinting along a tightrope, and if you fall either side of that tightrope at all, it's this unnecessary anxious moment, or you're injecting anxiety and stress into something that's already anxiety inducing and stressful, right? When you're practicing, if you have a memorized script today, don't freak out, but try not to bring your memorized script to the table when you're actually presenting. When you're practicing, if each time you go through a practice run, you say things slightly differently and a little bit different, what you're doing there, like if you say it differently every single practice run, it's a good sign, because what's happening is you're creating this kind of improvisational buffer where if you forget something, if you're nervous, freaked out, if you're intimidated, you have a little bit of kind of wiggle room to say it a little bit this way or a little bit that way. And if you stumble a bit through and you got to repeat a line, have a little vocal tick or something that you have to get over, big deal. We're here to learn about the company and learn about you. We're not here to recite scripture, right? We're just here to understand what you're working on. Who are you? What are you up to? What's your kind of general demeanor? There's no characteristic that you need to amp up or suppress. Just who's Nick? What's he working on? Does he know what he's doing? Should we jump on board? All right, let's go. Right. So scripts tend to kind of take that flavor and that kind of humanness out of it, which is generally a bad sign. Hit 70% perfect and don't try and perfect it, because we're not pitching robots, right?
And one additional sentence to this, the way I used to do it is you just write down bullets, like 2 to 3 bullets on the points that you want to hit. Don't write out a full sentence and the entire pitch. Just write down the bullets and the points that you want to make, and then you get to the space that Ben mentioned, where the same story always sounds a little bit different.
Great.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on. Is Giovanni on the call?
Yes, I am right here.
Hi there.
Hi,
You're up.
Yes. Hi, how's it going? Rents are soaring. Ownership feels out of reach. Too many communities are being left behind. At EcoHabitat, we're flipping the script. We're building a living ecosystem where residents aren't just tenants. They're stakeholders with real power to grow, earn, and shape their future. Our model blends affordable furnished housing, on-site food production, and smart digital tools into a self-sustaining community. This isn't just where people live, it's where they thrive. Our first Florida community breaks ground soon with a real-world proof-of-concept housing model designed to scale nationwide. I'm Giovanni. I lived through housing instability. I've worked across construction and tech. I know how to build systems that work. Not someday, but now. We're not chasing hype. We're tackling one of the biggest challenges of our generation with sustainability, equity, and action at the core.
Excellent. All right. Mentors ratings in 3, 2, 1. 2, 2, and 4. Ken, why don't you go first?
Yeah, no, excellent job, Giovanni. It was really, really good. I would have liked to hear a little bit more about the why you. In other words, you gave us in terms of the time that you explained kind of like why you're passionate about it as well. I don't know anything about your background, so if it was just a one sentence that said, "I've been doing this for the last 10 years," or you did say, "I've lived through this." I didn't know what that meant, but I kind of could, make it make sense. But what does it mean from a business? But my major point is, you would have really benefited from talking about benefits. What you did is, I still don't know why I want this yet. In other words, And if I was your target market, what am I actually getting from it? Is it cheaper? Is it more community? And what does more community mean? So what are the benefits that somebody going into you? I think that your pitch could have benefited from that because it's a very touchy-feely kind of I don't touchy-feely, but it's kind of something that somebody has to, where they're living in their environment, and what you're delivering to that is kind of like I call it a whole product, right? You're hitting every aspect of it. I love that, by the way. Love the concept as well. I couldn't get it quite to a 4 because that 2 to 4 is really hard, right? But I love the concept. Anyway, you get what I mean about talking about benefits and bringing those benefits out more. I'd like to hear what's in it for me and I also don't understand your target market. I didn't know if it was low cost housing or you kind of stated the problem, but I didn't really understand the problem. Well, you didn't state the problem all that much, and I don't know who the target is, and I don't want to leave you without knowing that. But I'm sure we'll have other questions on that, so you don't have to answer that now.
Right, Ben.
Yeah, excellent job, Gianni. So delivery wise, more or less bang on, right? Like there's not a whole lot of notes on delivery, very good, and you're clearly gonna know what you're talking about. Now the tricky thing, so my comments are more kind of on the business itself, right? I followed some companies kind of in a similar space like Cul-de-sac that are trying to do these like self-contained communities that have all of these kind of layered on infrastructure / sustainability / community kind of aspects to them. The tricky thing I would be looking at this if I put my investor hats on for a minute is this sounds like a really cool development somewhere, but is it a cool platform that we can then do this in Florida, in Arizona, in Colorado, and in Seattle? Like, what is that piece of it? And is this a real estate development in the guise of a company, or is there an ownable IP, scalable, licensable, adaptable kind of methodology or structure here that can be spun out versus just a single site, right?
Right, and that will yes. Okay, I'll take that input. Yes.
Because remember also like who you're pitching to, right? On the one hand, maybe not to kind of break the fourth wall here, but like you're not under any obligation to raise venture capital, right? If that isn't the right type of capital for you, you don't have to go to VCs. The classic like VCs hate this one trick. You don't have to go to VCs necessarily for funding, but you may want to go to other types of investors for funding something like this. It's going to be really hard for you to raise, say, 10, 15 million from someone who is otherwise investing in B2C, B2B, B2G apps and SaaS and AI and all that. But if you take it to a real estate developer that is in the space and that you've got some legit credentials and a big heavy deck and some urban planning backing you up, then maybe there is 10, 15, 20 million in the pot to develop this, right? But they're not necessarily the same people. They have different investor profiles, right?
Yeah. Thank you.
Stefan?
All right. Thank you so much for your pitch. 2 points briefly on your style. This is your opportunity. Every time you pitch is your opportunity to shine. In theory, Ken could pull out his wallet and give you the money that you need just based on your appearance to be lucky here today, right? So this is a massive opportunity for you. Wouldn't do it on an iPhone or on a phone. And because it adds to your appearance. So I don't see your name. It says iPhone on the screen. It's a detail, but that shows me how you execute. So how you present is important, and you want to make it polished. You don't want to make it up for grabs. And the second one was mentioned before on a different pitch, was like it felt read off, right? So it's okay for today. Along the way, wouldn't read off. Then in addition, the elephant in the room is what Ben slightly touched on. There's companies that already tried it. And I'm thinking, okay, wait, I have memory that the WeWork founder, who is quite nuts when it comes to ventures, tried it and failed. So if he failed, why would you succeed? There's other examples. Why did other companies didn't succeed in it? And it's the elephant. If you invest in pitch to investors, they will think that. And what is the elephant? That's for everyone, and that is different for every industry. Are there obvious things that come to mind when you pitch? And it's better for you to address those. Okay, I know what you guys think of. The WeWork founder, Adam Newman, tried WeLive. Here's why it failed. Here's how we are different. so that I know that you are the expert in the field and you have already done the cross-checking. Not that I mentioned something and you're like, I never heard of Adam Newman and I don't know about the company. So now I know that you don't know, right? So think about it. It will come over time where you will have a better feeling for it. And the last one was on the business model. Right now, what happens in the country is the opposite of what you pitch, and that's investor driven. And what you pitched was closer to a charity than a business model. So to Ken's point, or I think Ben mentioned as well, why should an investor care? Who should care? The person that needs a cheap living will care instantly, but they are not part of the audience here today. So move away from a little bit of charity taste to say, okay, what is the business model? How do you make money? How do you make other people make money? How can you make this a rocket ship?
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Excellent. That's great. Okay, all three of you went, right?
Yep.
Gonna move on. Okay. Malik, you are up.
Holy crap. Okay. Hi, my name is Malik Dixon. I'm a U.S. Army veteran and a co-founder of CloudDog, where we empower veterans to become certified cloud professionals and match them with real-world projects that help small businesses thrive. Every year, 200,000 service members leave the military, many unsure of their next step. At the same time, small business and startups are eager to adopt cloud technologies, but don't have the resources or in-house talent to do it effectively. CloudDog was created by veterans for veterans. We provide hands-on cloud-based training and platforms like AWS and Azure, combined with mentorship and project work through managed learning community. Business benefit by getting affordable, reliable help from automation, AI integration, cloud migration without needing a full tech team. So far, we trained 30 veterans and delivered 2 project solutions while laying the foundation for scalable growth. Our revenue comes from subscription-based tools, training programs, and government grants, growing demand of both sides of the market. CloudDog is more than just training. It is a mission to connect capable veterans and cloud needs of growing businesses. We are scaling fast and looking for partners who believe in our purpose-driven innovation.
Thank you, Malik. All right, mentors. Ratings in 3, 2, 1. 2, 2, and 1. Okay, let's start with Stefan.
Thank you, Malik, for your pitch. So you have the great opportunity, if it's veteran related, you technically have the attention of the audience. So you can always spin up an amazing story around a veteran story, and you shared a few numbers. So you have a massive opportunity to create an awesome storyline. What is lacking, and right now I think this is not venture, that it's not a venture business. I understand the problem. So you don't need to spend a lot of time on the problem. And even being involved in Founder Institute, we hear a lot of people coming through that say, hey, there's a lot of veterans coming out of the military and they need work. Understood. That's like 10 seconds of your pitch. Understood. And now you need to dive into the business model and how do you actually training up is somewhat easy. How do you sell it? How do you scale this? How do you start placing veterans in companies is to me the one area that I would love to learn more through. Because the veteran, the problem, all that is straightforward. And the training piece is just, you just need to do it. How do you start selling it is to me the main thing here, to make this a massive business.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate that, Stefan.
Thank you.
Ben?
Yeah, absolutely. Good to see you again, Malik. So there's a couple things to unpack here, right? The first thing is that if we were to have a conversation, and we have had a conversation about this business on a previous office hour, you know the content perfectly well, right? And so I think what you're trying to do here is you're taking an engineer's approach to pitching and trying to optimize it to the absolute best possible wording that you can get, which I know that is your lens, that is your approach, and that's often how we arrive at these kind of moments. If I asked you a string of say 4 or 5 questions and you just responded to those in like a sentence or less, we would get through that same kind of story. Well, we would get through the story, we would get to know the company, we'd get to know what it is that you're working on, but it doesn't have to be this precise exact wording. Now, in terms of the kind of how we can short circuit that, what I would suggest as an exercise that you do kind of for the next run through is to just put down the topics that, as Stefan mentioned kind of previously, like bullet points, but specifically not wording, but just the topic. You want to start off with, who are we doing this for? What is the challenge? What is the reason? I do tons of work with Veteran Fund and with Ryan and veterans and defense and dual use oriented accelerators all over the country. And so I see a lot of this firsthand as well. They are great, compelling stories. We even discussed one of them on our last call, right? So I think if you can dial back the nerves a little bit, it's not the end of the world if you have a slightly shaky pitch. It's actually more human, and it's a better interaction, right? So allow yourself to do a shaky pitch. Just tell me what it is that you're working on and give me an example of somebody that's benefited from the product, and tell me what you're going to do in the next, say, like 3 to 6 months. And then that's all we need, right? We don't need a perfect delivery. We just need to get to know you, right?
That's correct. Thank you. I appreciate
Thanks
that.
a lot, Matt.
And congratulations on your...
Yes, excellent. Thanks a lot, Matt. I really appreciate that.
Ken.
Great. Yeah, no, thanks so much. It was a really, really interesting pitch, and I appreciate all the elements of it. A couple of things that I don't know if it's an investable business. It feels a lot like a services business. That doesn't mean it's disqualified, but there are a lot of investors that don't want to invest in service-only business. So one of the things I was left coming back with is, where's the tech? So you're in a technical field, but do you have any tech that's actually integrated into the service to make this a productized service or increase your gross margins into the 50, 60, 70, 80% versus maybe the 30 and 40% range, which is all things that they will drill down into. But let me ask you that question. Do you have any tech associated with this? Because I didn't hear any in the pitch itself.
Actually, we have more than just that. Myself as well as my founder and CEO are both DevOps professionals. So we know the field as much as it is. But what we're trying to do is take our knowledge, share that with others while working on other projects, other businesses, working with businesses and other startups to work with their solutions as well, thus training the people that we're teaching. And
Right.
put them in their roles, in their prescribed roles.
I think it's amazing. And keep in mind, when I said it was not an investable business, I don't mean that it's a bad business. This could be a huge business, by the way. I love the area. I'm on AWS. I had a DevOps team at my last company. Security is gargantuan, and the ability to outsource this with knowledgeable people. You cannot find people in California or probably anywhere that can do this at a cost-effective way. You're going to spend, and I point to you here because Silicon Valley is right over here. You're going to spend $400,000 on a DevOps, $300,000 on a DevOps guy here. Security, another $300,000, $400,000. Some of these businesses, I would have liked to have seen maybe who your target is as well. Are you targeting small and mid-sized businesses, or you're targeting large businesses?
For the moment, right now, we're targeting small to medium businesses. Okay.
And the reason I think that's important is be able to have an outsourced solution, kind of like a partial CFO or a partial CMO, fractional fractional CFO. I'm not saying that you would be that, but have as my growing business, I don't want to hire DevOps. Now I have a couple of other things, which is why am I going through you versus going overseas? Because I can do all of this overseas and possibly a lot cheaper. I have a dev team in Argentina. We've got the Philippines. We've got India. We've got Ukraine. There's other places to do this that might be a lot cheaper than doing it in the US. I'm not saying that's good, by the way. I'm not saying that's right. I'm saying that's a question that will come up. So you don't need to answer that now. Last thing is, if you do go after money, you got to target the VCs, I think is really, really important. The thing that grabbed me is government grants. I really like that. The last thing I just want to say is, if these veterans actually come out with solid tech skills, like really advanced tech skills, because let me give you an example. One of my best friends is on the board of Wiz. Wiz just got acquired by Google, or is getting acquired by Google. That model is that VC, they take those people out of the elite, the elite group within the IDF in Israel, right? And those people then get these businesses and they run these businesses through and they have this model that just cranks it out. If I heard something that said, we're not just going to retrain these veterans, they already come in with an amazing skill set and we're going to take them to the next level, I might be even more inclined to say, I back this not only from a moral perspective, like I want to back veterans, but I back it from a business perspective. I don't know if I wanted to hear that. I don't know if it's true or not. Anyway, I share that with you.
Oh, thank you. I'll make sure I practice that, Ken, along with the energy that you put into it.
I love it. No, it's great. It's great.
But,
Yeah, I love what you're doing, though.
it's something
This
that
is
I
a
have to
big
master.
space. It is a big space. I don't know if you want money, though. There are other ways to fund this business, growing this business possibly. So,
Okay. Stefan?
I have just one quick additional point. What makes it helpful if your pitch is written down and it comes across like you read it off, have a conversation with your working group, with others, and just explain it to them until they understand it. Less words are generally better than too many words. It's not the audience's job to pay really close attention and follow. It needs to be instant. There's like when I interview people that we hire, there's a gift in communicating a storyline. Sometimes you have people that you really need to pay attention and you still have a tough time understanding what actually is going on. Where you want to be is on the other side. It needs to be so crystal clear. Even if I'm drinking and I do one other thing, I still understand where you're going and what you're doing. It's not my job to pay close attention. It's your job to communicate in a way that it's easy to understand. And the way you can practice it, have conversations, explain it, and then write it down in simplistic words. This is what I'm doing. And it's a sentence. It's not, and it doesn't have complicated words in there. I was like, wait, what? I don't know. So
Awesome.
that's just a little hack.
Thanks, everybody. Thanks, Malik. Sophia, you are up next. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you, everyone. Can you guys hear me okay? Been having
Yes.
some issues with my earpods. Awesome. Alrighty, so what if the traditional pill bottle could stop an overdose before it actually happens? Or what if it could make sure that your aging parents or grandparents took their medication safely every single time? Medication misuse is one of the most preventable causes of death, and we're doing something about it. Hi, my name is Sophia, and I'm the founder of SecretBox. We built a smart pill bottle and software platform that helps prevent overdose and non-adherence. It dispenses the prescribed dose and then uses AI video to confirm ingestion and then lets the providers monitor everything digitally. The bottle comes preloaded from the pharmacy so that patients pick it up just like any other prescription. There's no extra steps. It's not just a tech fix, it's a public health solution. With billions lost to poor adherence and new reimbursement models in place, providers can now get paid to monitor compliance. It's a win for patients, payers, and providers. I'm a biomedical engineer and with experience in insurance and pharmacy systems, and this mission is personal. I've seen firsthand how dangerous medication mismanagement can be. We're raising $600,000 to finalize FDA compliance and launch pilots with 6 signed pharmacy partners across 9 locations. We're not just building a product, we're building a safer, more accountable future. Thank you.
Very interesting. Thank you. Okay, mentors, ratings in 3, 2, 1. 4, 4, and 4. Impressive. Ken, do you want to go first?
Sure. Yeah, the great presentation. That was awesome.
Thank you.
And I love what you're doing. And you've identified a big problem and you have a solution. It's very clear as well. What I like about yours and what I want everybody to understand, it's just, I got it in 5 seconds, right? And everybody can get it in 5 seconds. We all can identify with that. That's a big part of being able to sell an investor. Here's my biggest concern, and maybe it's not as much of a concern as I should think. It's really hard to penetrate this market, and you probably know that. You are going from a pill bottle that is like a fraction of a penny or a penny, and you're going to something that's probably a lot more expensive than that in an industry that it could be. And the second thing is you have to get some mass adoption of this in an industry that moves very slowly and has no motivation to change what they're doing now. That's my biggest concern with the business. I don't know if you want to address that just real quick. If you see the same issue, or we're going to take a different approach and go to small pharmacies or whatever, and they're going to care.
Yeah,
What do
we're
people
taking
care?
a different approach a little bit at first.
Okay.
So we're going for the independent pharmacies first, and so we're going to
Makes
prove the
sense.
model out that way and then move upwards.
Yeah, but you do know the challenge you're going to have, right? I mean,
Oh,
you're,
absolutely. Yeah,
so
yeah,
I think you're
100%.
going to need, I think you're going to need a bigger investor and a little bit more money to even get started. So throw out my 1.5 and 2 million. I actually think you're going to need a little bit of serious money in which to do this. As you probably already know, you only asked for 600,000. That's fine for a seed round or a pre-seed round.
It's a pre-seed round, yeah.
And totally valid, by the way. You know me, I'm the opposite. Like, don't ask for too much money. I keep beating people over the head. But I think your second, third, or fourth round might need to be a little bit bigger.
Absolutely. Yeah.
It's just the reality of what it is. Great job, by the way.
Thank you.
Awesome. Stefan?
Thank you, Sophia. You are a fast talker.
Yeah, I
Not
try to
bad.
slow it down.
Just,
Yeah.
yeah, slow down. It's so fast. It's like you put a lot of information in it. And if you slow it down, it's like way easier to understand. Like English is not my first language. For me to understand, actually, like you lost me in the first sentence where I couldn't comprehend the words because it was so fastly spoken, right? So if you slow down a little bit, and then I don't understand the solution, what it actually is it like mindset wise says it's a video on a cell phone and there's AI comprehending if that's accurate, but I guess it's not. It's part of the product. Can I briefly elaborate on that?
Yeah, so it's a pill bottle connected to an app on a phone, on the smartphone. So it basically the app tells the pill bottle what to dispense and how much to dispense, and then it'll dispense out the pill, and then the app basically watches the patient take it, making sure that it's the patient that's on the bottle that's the one taking it, not somebody else, and that they're actually putting it in their mouth and ingesting it.
Got it. So it was close to what I understood. It's old people. There's other non-tech solutions where it's like, hey, the damn pills are in the box. It's Monday to Thursday or Monday to Sunday. It's like, this is how you take them. Now we bring AI to an elderly population. That's just generally the question is like, is that over-engineering a solution for a problem that exists? If you open up the presentation, the problem statement, how many people die every year because they don't take their medication, right? It's like generally a good number. It's like, hey, is that like 10,000 or is it like 2 million? Do we really care? And who has an interest to invest in this? So slowing down, making it clearer, and understanding how does this over-engineered solution will work with older people is like the first things that come to mind.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. But lovely area.
Thank you.
And your background gives it credibility that you are the person to pull it off.
Great. Ben.
Yeah, so really really good job, Sophia. I like this one. It hits all of those kind of like core notes, and as somebody that like I'm scouting and going through deals all the time and going over pitches, like it hits all the notes that we're looking for in terms of, you know, is this a founder we want to back, right? You've got the expertise, it's a clear problem. I got the problem immediately. You know, keeping track of kind of medication and all that is very intelligible. What I like about this one in particular is that there is a heavy focus on kind of the pragmatism of how do we actually get this built versus just vision and fuzz and fluff, right? There are schools of thought in terms of like leaning storytelling heavy and leaning kind of heartstring pulling heavy, and then leaning kind of like, here's how we're going to dominate the market, kind of pragmatism heavy. I tend to be a little bit that direction, but I want to know who the founder is behind it. And as long as they can illustrate their background and their expertise, and that they have some industry knowledge, then, you know, we're all good. The one thing that I'll just quickly tack on, because I don't have a huge amount of notes, to be honest, I'm interested in seeing what this looks like in a deck, because I have my spidey senses that you're going to try and bulldoze through quite a lot of detail that may be unnecessary, right? To Stefan's point, trying to cram in tons of detail that you may not necessarily need to have in there to get the point across. When we're talking about asks, the typical way of like kind of breaking down the ask, or the one that we see so frequently, is the donut of like 30% sales, 30% marketing, 30% admin and dev, and 10% miscellaneous bullshit, whatever, right? What that tells me is, how are you going to spend the money, not what are we going to get for the money. As an investor, I don't really care how you're going to spend the money in kind of particular detail. What I care more about is like, what is the outcome of that money going to be on the company? So if you're telling me you have pilots or that you need a production run of X number of units so that you can do a pilot with a care home or with an insurance network or something, then I now I have a target for what that money is going towards. So we need 650K because we need an initial run of the hardware so that we can run this pilot project in Q1 26. Right there, it's like now we're getting into, and here we're getting into optimization, kind of very granular stuff. But like now it's like, oh, there's a growth plan, there's a client on the line. We just need to cover this production bill, and then they'll be off to the races. Just have just food for thought for when you start talking about what the ask is for. Okay.
Awesome. Thank you.
Cool. Thank you, Sophia. Good job.
Can I make just one super quick comment? There is a possibility of going a very vertical route as well, like Alzheimer's, dementia, because that's a huge area where you could transform that industry or transform that from what Stefan said, which is the pill bottle, the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, because if I understand correctly, they do need to be monitored in many cases on their meds. And they're probably, I'm not in the medical field, but there are probably other very tight verticals. So instead of saying, hey, I'm going after everybody, or I'm going after transforming an entire pharmacy, I'm going after a vertical. Then the insurance companies come in because they blah, 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 blah. The cost structure changes completely when you go into a very, very vertical that's very expensive to treat. Anyway.
Awesome. Thank you.
Or elderly homes. It's like just something that comes to mind. You probably thought about it, but where the professional person working there is on the hook if they messes up in a lawsuit. So to cover everyone who's working in that environment, perfect. That's a perfect sales pitch.
Yeah, I was trying to the whole thing for me is like, there's the simple pill bottles that you put in the pills and you take it out and whatnot. It's like, those are great. But at the same time, it's like, I was trying to eliminate the work because that requires a human being to preload those to do like a nurse or a caregiver or someone else. Like I wanted something to come straight from the pharmacy directly. Sorry,
we don't have time for like a lot of back and forth unless there's like a clarifying question. Great. Okay. Did we, we got everybody, right? All the mentors?
Yeah,
okay.
all the mentors, yeah.
We did.
Getting a little confused. Okay, awesome. Juan, you are up next, and then after that, we're going to start cold calling on people. So if you have already pitched at a previous session, I might be calling you next until the time is up. So, go ahead.
Okay, can I start right now?
Yeah, go for it.
Okay. Hello, everyone. My company, Mercury Sense AI, is developing an AI-powered intelligence platform to help small and medium businesses stay competitive with actionable insights, combining competitor tracking, web data, and analytics affordably. The time is right because the competitive intelligence market is growing 99.9% annually, while AI now makes enterprise analytics accessible to SMBs that previously couldn't afford such tools. I'm the right person to build this business because my background in data science and my professional experience in implementing intelligence solutions reveal the gap between available tools and what resource constrained business actually need. I'm currently looking for early users and pilot partners. That's it.
Thank you. Ben, let's start with you.
Absolutely. So,
I'm sorry. We're good. We have to do the ratings first. Yeah. Okay, ratings in 3, 2, 1, go. 2, 2, and 2. Okay, Ben, go for it.
Can we get the person's name again? I'm sorry, I missed it, for the form.
You can just call me Lee.
What you're listed in the system is Lee?
Oh, Yuxuan.
Yuxuan. Yuxuan.
Okay, there we go.
Yeah. Okay.
Thank you so much.
So I think one of the tricky issues with any AI product at the moment is that everyone's kind of like blinded by divine light, right? We're all looking into the Ark of the Covenant, and we're all melting from like, oh my God, it can do everything, right? And so like the tricky thing here is that when we have a technology that theoretically can do every intellectual task. It just becomes this like galaxy of possibilities, right? As a founder, the constellation of capabilities, and I remember this from the blockchain run up, from the NFTs and from crypto and all this kind of stuff. People saying we're a blockchain company. It's like, okay, great. What do you do? So, well, we have an ERC20 token. It's like, great. Well, what do you do? Well, it's on an immutable blockchain. It's like, oh, cool. What do you do? It's just like, we'll read the white paper, and you're just like, fuck. So the tricky thing here, right, is that you have to ground this in a use case. If you just give me a cloud of capabilities, then we're just talking about all these different capabilities, and none of those that you mentioned are particularly ownable. What is ownable is if you pull together some of those out of that constellation of things, if you pull them together into this, we are doing X, Y, and Z, and to achieve that outcome, we're using these and these parts of AI, of blockchain, of whatever, right? If you tell me you're an NFT company, my eyes roll into the back of my head so fast you can like power a city off it, right? But if you tell me that you're doing real estate if you're doing real estate with much cheaper ways of like exchanging deeds, and to do that you leverage cheap and accessible NFT technology, then I'm like, oh, that makes a lot of sense, right? So if you're telling me that you're helping SMBs and you're helping these small companies compete with big dogs with a lot of these automation tools, great, but help me understand, what do those scenarios look like? What kind of thing is it that they're actually doing? And it doesn't have to be comprehensive, it just has to be indicative of a pattern. So give me 2 or 3 examples, short form, 10 words, right? We help this kind of company do this. We help this kind of company do that. We help this kind of company do that. Our system is adaptable to all these different use cases. We're bringing it to SMBs across America, yada, yada, right? Versus we're an AI that does everything for everybody everywhere. It's like, okay, great. Now you're in just innovation soup with everybody else, right? So I'll leave it at that. I'll leave my rants about AI for another day. But that is the main thing that I've got like a dozen other notes, I think, for this one. But let's fix that one first, ground it in a use case versus a capabilities cloud, and then we can figure out the rest. Okay.
Great.
Good
Ken.
job, then. Thanks.
Yeah, I go off of those exact same comments. I think Ben was dead on. My first comment was, why do I care? I mean, I got what you do, kind of, but I don't know that I care necessarily. I'm like, well, I can use ChatGPT or Gemini for this, or buy their research module, and it's $20 or $100 or $200 a month, or whatever. So it didn't really compel me in that. I like the idea of your target, small and medium-sized businesses, because they need a lot of help in figuring out this AI problem. Number one. Number two, you're basically, I mean, I have the same technology in a different way, right? I have a Q&A technology that I can apply to all these different industries. And what did I do? Just follow suit. I specifically focused on a particular industry, found their pain point, found the benefits around it, and then can go after a target market like that. And I'm just repeating what Ben said. That's what I'm doing. Like, I'm executing a business, what you're talking about, and people are getting it because they can see the live example. I literally pull in product, I do upsell, I can do specific things like add to cart. That's functionality that they can't get on ChatGPT, right? Shopping functionality. What is that for you? Define that same thing. And I think that you might have something here or something really, really cool here, but it needs to be defined. I'm kind of repeating what Ben said, but I think it's a really, really strong area.
Awesome. Stefan.
Yeah, so I don't want to be the third person that's repeating my predecessors. So that's basically it. It's all been said. And the pattern is so similar with AI to what was on blockchain, on crypto, on NFT. It's always the same thing. Nobody cares if it's AI. People only care about a problem that gets solved. And that problem solving saves either time or money, or there's not like 15 different ways to drive benefits to a company. There's just like 2 or 3. And you got to figure out and communicate very clearly on what are the 2 or 3 benefits that you can bring to the company. Why would anybody care when you position it to them? So.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. All right. Lisa, it looks like you have not pitched in a little while. So I'm picking you.
Okay, ready to go. You can hear me okay?
Yes.
Perfect. All right. Let me start. Let me tell you about one of Dr. Megan Dare's biggest problems. Dr. Dares is an orthopedic surgeon and a founder of a large medical center who is incredibly time poor. And every day she's buried in repetitive patient questions and admin that stretch her team and slow her down. Even with detailed pre-operative instructions to her patients, the patients feel quite overwhelmed and will flood the care team with calls, with emails that take up a quarter of their admin and clinical daily time. That's why we built Olin Health. It's a surgery recovery platform for really small to mid-sized centers that guides patients with step-by-step instructions, reminders, and is a secure channel for communications to communicate with clinical and admin teams. It saves surgeon time, it improves outcomes, and lifts patient satisfaction. So we are piloting that with Dr. Dare's Center in a clinically batched beta trial and have a pipeline of 20 further surgeons as part of our network. Our founder team blends 20 plus years of experience each across CEO and a globally experienced CMO.
Excellent. Okay. Mentors, ratings in 3, 2, 1. 4, 4, and 2. Excellent. Okay. Stefan, do you want to go first?
Wow.
Whoa.
Thank you. Whoa. Found it myself. Thank you.
I'm going to change that to a 4, by the way. Like I was super on the fence, but like I'm thinking about it. That was really good, Lisa. So I'm going to change that to a 4.
All right, Lisa. Thank you so much for your pitch. Really liked it. You open up strong with an awesome story, with a good problem statement. The only thing I would say, it's a little long. Like you've spent the vast majority of your time honing in on the problem. You might want to shorten that one down. And you could quantify it as well in terms of, hey, if a doctor works, I don't know, 60 hours a week, 40 hours a week, there's a certain percentage that is just having those discussions or guiding conversations. So quantify it, shorten it. I love that you do a pilot. That you hit on the founder team. It comes across credible. If you have like certain names that you could drop that would increase more credibility, then even better. But overall, I believe that you know what you talk about. And yeah, overall, really liked it.
Thank you.
Excellent. And Ken?
Yeah, excellent, of course. I mean, really, really good delivery and all that. Real quick, just one thing that I picked up on is you described the team that you have. I didn't know why you, I heard about how great the team was, but I didn't know how great you were. I know you're great, so there's no question about that. I just incorporated just one sentence in why you. Second thing is that I'm curious about the competition, and I know you only had a minute, so you can't cover the entire competitive landscape, but it does seem like it's something. This has to have been created before in the electronic patient record or the ERP system for medical. I know a little bit about medical. I don't know a lot, but I know enough that it seems like something should be done. And the third question that I have is, does this need to be integrated into the medical record? I'm forgetting what the name of it is. I don't know why, the ER or whatever. Yep. That integration could be a bit tricky. And you've got HIPAA compliance and all that other stuff, which is fine. That's good. But I was just a little bit on, like, I wondered about the competition and why people haven't done this before, because it's obvious, but it's a great product, right? If they haven't done it, they're stupid, right? I did worry a little bit initially about you having to get it into bigger and selling into medical is never easy and getting into bigger institutions, but it sounds like you're going after individuals first, individual surgeons, and I assume they can make their own purchase decisions as individuals, and then you've got other organizations, insurance, all of that goes from there. So I love that. Great job. And I loved your energy on presentation. And it came across as very authentic, and your storytelling. It was a little bit long, the story, but I like the storytelling. It's all things that you can refine in about 2 seconds. Great job.
Thank you.
Nice. Excellent. Okay. So I'm going to pick on George next, and then Kayla, we should have time for you as well.
Check. Okay.
Go for it.
So we help small brands grow. In fact, today we do that for over 40 brands, and we are generating over 50,000 a month doing that. We're Uppership. We're a subscription-based third-party logistics company, and if you're not familiar, 3PLs are the backbone of e-commerce. We handle operations so that brands can focus on what matters most to them. The idea is very simple. Through technology and automation, we are bringing, we're bringing reliable, affordable, and most importantly, simplified logistics. This is a $270 billion market, and it's the most neglected segment in the industry, mainly due to poor unit economics and scalability constraints. And we are changing that. So we are in 3 states, generating over 50,000 in monthly revenue, and we are growing at a rate of 35% month over month. Thank you.
Okay. Mentors ratings, 3, 2, 1, go. 2, 2, 2. Okay. Ken, you know something about e-commerce? You want to go first?
Sure. Yeah. The first thing that I say is I have no idea why you're different. I almost gave you a 1, but then you said the traction twice, and and the growth rate and all of that. I changed it to a 2. I need to know a lot more about how you're going to be different. I do know a lot about this space, and I have no idea what your competitive advantage is. We all know we can just listen to the presentation. We don't need to know the industry. We actually just know that there are a lot of 3PLs out there and logistic companies and all that. There are hundreds, if not thousands of them out there for e-commerce. And so I didn't hear anything about why you're unique, special, and different. And that's really, really important. I'm going to stop there just because that's such a big deal. And it was missed. So yeah, overall, I didn't love your presentation style. I'd like to see you got to be a little more energetic. You don't need to be me. I'm crazy, but you need to be like, you're a 2 and I want you to be a 4 or 5 minimum. Sorry, but that's personal. Look at that and present to yourself in the mirror and see if you can raise that energy level.
Well taken. Thank you, Ken.
Great.
Let's go with Ben.
Excellent. Thanks a lot, George. So this is kind of where the point I was making earlier about like having a perfectly kind of locked in RoboScript. This is kind of like the other end of that spectrum, right? So does it strictly speaking like adhere a high power energetic pitch like Ken was mentioning? No, it doesn't. But traction helps a lot in terms of balancing some of those things out. And so I'm not super familiar necessarily with the 3PL and logistics space, but I've worked with a couple clients in there, and the amounts of money that fly around and the implications of getting these things wrong are astonishingly high, right? And so, especially when you have shipments and cargo and whatnot flying around and all that, it is one of those spaces where the amounts of money changing hands it's like, when you're paying for things personally, you're working with personal money. When a company is paying for something at an enterprise, they're using industrial scale money, right? And so when you're working in those kind of spaces, it's very easy to forget that like industrial scale money is still money because it becomes almost mundane, the amounts that are kind of changing hands, right? What I think would benefit this one or help kind of bring it home a bit is emphasizing the implications kind of financially of some of these things going wrong and what could happen, and maybe like a case study or two, not a long-winded one, but just like a mention of, look, we do this and this and this for these different industries. Don't take away time from the traction mentions. Those are very important, but let's find some time in there to mention, look, if the things that we help solve go wrong, they go catastrophically wrong to this degree, because the spice level of that problem helps me understand like what the scalability and what the potential of this is, like where could it go? Because if I get an understanding for how much money is in play and how much of a nightmare it's going to be for a big company with big budgets, then they're going to pay for that nightmare to go away, right? If you can show that you're already tapping into something like that or a pipeline like that, then it's like, ooh, okay, how far into that pipeline can we get? So certainly we can dial up the enthusiasm for sure on the pitch, but like, I honestly don't. I think it's certainly important, but I kind of look at any pitch in this kind of almost like a balanced Venn diagram, right? If you're super strong on one side, you can get away with a little bit less. If you're but if you can get to this kind of well balanced but high level point with everything, then you start to really crush, right? So don't worry too much about having to like affect a high energy thing if that's not your style. But if we literally just picking up the cadence and the speed a little bit, we'll get you there. So other than that, good job, George. Really like this one.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it.
Thanks.
All right, Stefan.
Thank you so much, George. Last point on how you presented, it seemed like you didn't care a lot because it was so nonchalant and casual. That's just how you come across. You had the fundamentals to get to a 4. Like when you start off, you have so much traction. You start off really strong. Except that you say we help small brands grow, which is like an awesome opening statement. This is what we are here on earth for. But then you say in sentence 3, it's like we do logistics. And I was like, okay, wait, logistics is just how is logistics related to growth, right? So the minor disconnect. But you start off really strong. The main point why was the 2? There's a million 3PL companies out there. How are you different? Is there any tech involved? That was getting it down to 2. So
thanks. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, George. All right, Kayla.
Thank you. Okay. Raise your hand if you're a college graduate. Now, keep your hand up if after graduating you felt emotionally prepared to leave behind your community, structure, and suddenly figure it out all on your own. That drop in hands, that's the silent crisis U8 is solving. Every year, 4 million students graduate from college, and 70% report feelings of anxiety or depression. That's why I created U8. U8 is a tiered, community-driven mental health hub for recent grads that weaves in peer counseling, coaching, and therapy so that recent grads can thrive after they graduate. Instead of having to navigate adulting alone, U8 grounds its users in community, care, and support. We're not building a bridge, we're creating a safety net because graduating shouldn't mean falling. We've already conducted a survey with 200 plus responses and conducted interviews, and we're working on building out our MVP. We look forward to any partnerships. Thank you.
Great. Okay, ratings in 3, 2, 1, go. 2, 2. Stefan, I didn't say. Okay, 2, 2, and 2. Okay, let's say, Stefan, do you want to go first?
Yes, Kayla, thank you so much. When I was in Founder Institute, I actually tried to tackle this issue. And where it ended was, who cares enough who's paying the bills in the end? And that's still what I see today, and that's a long time ago. The problem statement is real. We have a different generation coming into the workplace that is mentally very, very different than the previous generation or our parents' generation. So the problem is real, but how do you solve it? And right now it sounds like charity. And who's paying for it? The problem that I've seen previously is that there's not a willingness to pay for this. And the reason becomes obvious if your life is so messed up that there's no point of return, but you're really far down in life. It doesn't happen necessarily after you graduate. So I don't see a business model here on to make, like, who's paying and how can you make money with it. It sounds like charity. It sounds like potentially it's needed. But that's why I was a 2.
The plan is to do a revenue model for a B2B2C where we're going to pitch to universities and then they can pay a fee and then offer it to their students.
And universities will say that they don't see it, and that's where they have guidance counselors for, right? That's the pitch from a university perspective, where you, as a student, pay 50 or 60,000, and if you study in state. So it's like that's to me the elephant in the room that you need to bring in terms of, don't spend too much time on the problem because there's so much written about it. There's a greater awareness today than it was probably 15 years ago. But tell me, how do you make money? And have those conversations. Sounds like you have a lot of conversations lined up. Bring those answers to the table. It's like universities will happy to pay a quarter of what they charge the students to help them mentally, because mentally students don't get jobs. That's what causes the mental breakdown. So what you try to solve is not even the real problem. And that is something that you should keep in mind when you explain it.
Ken.
Yeah, to follow up on that, the universities might be motivated. The universities might be motivated because they want high job placement ratings. And so to feed off of that, I'm kind of like, who's going to pay for this? Exactly the same comments. So just times that by 2 for your feedback. But I don't think university is going to pay for this. I don't think they see it as their issue necessarily. The only thing, if you can connect it to their ROI and their motivation, what's in it for them? What's in it for a university? If they have a 60% job placement rating, or MBAs coming out of Harvard, I guess it's it's like 25% of Harvard MBAs can't get a job or whatever. That's posted all over social media, which it is. That's a problem for them. So if you go at it from that angle, maybe they'll pay for it in certain departments. I think other departments might think, and I'm not an expert on universities at all, might think, this is not my problem. I don't care if they're depressed at the end. It's not my problem. They paid me the money. We move on. So anyway, and then the other one, it was just why you. I didn't understand at all, like why you're doing this, or either it's personal or you have an expertise in it. That was the other one. Oh, one last thing. Sorry, benefits. If you could have drawn out a little bit more of the benefit statements within your pitch, then I would have felt more connected to it. I get the depression, but what's the benefits of you providing the service and resolving that? That I did want to hear that. That's it.
Yeah.
I'm good.
Okay, great. So overall, presented very well, right? And you know, there are valid arguments that, like, who's going to pay for it, right? The way I tend to frame that comment is like, companies that do good still need to be good companies, right? And so I think to kind of build on some of the comments, the missing part here clearly is kind of the revenue model, right? And I think as you're going into some of those surveys and you're kind of engaging with some of the students, I think one of the very clear things about all this is that there is a lot of motivation to try and solve the problem. Now, the tricky thing is that with kind of, you know, I don't think it's necessarily a matter of like Gen Z is like emotionally fragile and that's why they can't handle the world. I think really what's happening is that you have a kind of paradigm shift happening where universities, where you go and sit in an institution for 4 or 5 years and prepare to go out into the world and deal with things, is kind of misaligned with the state that we're in right now, where the industry that you're in, or the type of technology that you're using, or the nature of your job is changing every 3 to 6 to 12 months. And so how do you go and lock in a curriculum that was written 10 years ago, study it, go through that process, then come out into the world and land in a good position, a good job? So while I agree that this is an issue that has been kind of that a lot of people have approached in all kinds of different ways, I think where you can start to make a real dent in it is take that baseline that you're at right now, because you do present very well and you obviously know the space, and so that's not a concern. What I would love to spend this time on when you're pitching is, let's step up above that baseline and provide a little bit more kind of nuanced and specific detail on, like, why is this not being solved yet? Help me understand what you know about some of the other attempts or some of the other at-bats that, look, other companies have tried to solve this and here is where they fall short. You can either let the audience, because it's clearly a live wire, right? That, like, everyone's mentioned it so far. It's clearly a live wire. You can either allow the audience to hit you with that pushback, or you can own it up front and be like, look, we know that we know that the transition from university to jobs is difficult, and we know that it has been hard to figure out how do we support these young people getting out into the workplace. Well, here's what we're doing about it. We've recognized that these and these mechanisms are the key problems that are actually causing this gap between university and a fulfilling career. That's why we built X, right? X is a platform that allows you to do A, B, and C, right? I can't use that example now because X is an actual platform, but like, here is acme.app, right? Help me understand the just one cog in that mechanism that you're helping solve and bridging that gap. Because if you can take what is a very heartstring pulling, fuzzy, fluffy kind of problem that we've heard a lot, and inject some like focused pragmatism and like, here's how we're really making a dent in this finally. There's a bunch of ways that you can figure out kind of the revenue component in terms of job placement, talent scouting. You could argue that there's a SaaS play here where students would pay for it to some degree to have like a personalized coach, AI/hybrid/peer networks. Like, there's all kinds of ways that we can spin this out into a successful business. The question is really just, let's start by getting above that baseline that everyone's already familiar with, because you know, clearly committed to the problem, You know it. You know it well, but we need to go a step or two further in. Assume that everybody knows the problem at this point. So just push past that, okay? But otherwise, very good, well presented, good idea, good space to get into generally. Nature of work, next generation work, placement. They're all huge issues at the moment. So stay at it.
Great.
Awesome. Thanks a lot, Kayla.
I'm sorry, we got to all three mentors?
Yep. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you so much. So I think that is a wrap for this evening. Ken, thank you so much for an amazing pitch on pitching. Will you be able to share some of your slides with us?
Yeah, they're all available. I think I sent them already over to you, so you can post them.
That's right.
And
Right.
whatever you'd like. Yeah.
Okay. Can we have an applause for our mentors this evening? Thank you so much. Yeah, lots of pitching. Thank you, founders. And I believe before we wrap, Reed has something he would like to say. Thanks, everyone.
So yeah, thank you, mentors. I think fabulous feedback, great presentation, Ken. I wanted to share something because I think on the founder side there can always be frustration around this. I know I heard at least a couple of times of where I've heard founders pitch one thing at one point, switch it up likely because of a mentor giving feedback, saying, this is, and then you switch to something, and then tonight you hear, another mentor being like, geez, if you only had this other thing, which you just had, last week. It is the nature of the game. So as Stefan started at the beginning of this, your goal is to try to find the signal in a lot of noise. So I think there was some excellent feedback here. I think a lot of times we had, huge sort of consensus among the mentors tonight. But also I know things will change, and sometimes you can pitch almost exactly the same thing, but to come to Ken's point, with just more energy, more conviction, and those twos become fives, even just from the pure force of your personality. So I think that's kind of important to note too. It's not always about the business. It's a combination of all of it. But yeah, wanted to say good night. This was a lot of pitching in one night. So mentors, it's not normally just like a straight through, almost 2-hour sprint. Ken, I want you to know that that's not. We are getting prepped for next week is our mentor idea review, which is a little bit similar to this. We do a lot of pitching, but we go into multiple rooms. There will be 3 rooms, I think, with a lot of different mentors. Founders, be prepared to pitch twice in the evening. So you'll pitch to one group of mentors, then we'll switch and you'll pitch to another group of mentors. So this is to try to help get you prepared for that. I hope for those of you who didn't pitch tonight, that you were able to get, take the feedback and apply it to your own pitches and what you're doing. And yes, Jane, I'd love to.
Oh yeah, thanks, Reed. So when we pitch twice next week, are those 1-minute pitches that we're preparing?
No, sorry, these are your 3-minute pitches. So you should have in your homework be able to see. So next week is the first time you will be pitching with a deck. It'll be 3 minutes, and you'll do that twice. And I should say this because I think it's never clear. From now on, so tonight was your last sort of 60-second pitch in our format. I think the 60-second pitch is really useful because that is the one that when you meet someone randomly, you should try to never go over 60 seconds when you just are kind of briefly introducing your company, probably a little bit less than that. So you will come back to this informally a lot, but from next week till our investor idea review, which is a few weeks after that, you'll be doing a 3-minute pitch. After that, you'll move to a 5-minute pitch, and you'll do 5 minutes till the end of the cohort. That was all I wanted to say, but again, thanks, mentors. Also, in case any founders have any more questions about the program, we can stick around for a few more minutes to answer those. But mentors, I wanted to give my personal thanks and say, appreciate you giving up 2 hours of your day and evening to come in.
Thank you. Thanks for
Good
having
luck,
us.
everyone.
Thanks, everyone.
Yeah.
Good night.
Thank you all.
Thank you,
Good night,
everyone.
everybody. Thank you.
Good luck with the program.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.
All right, everyone. Thank you.
Hey, Reed, I just have one quick question. I'm moving next week, as in like relocating 300 miles, packing up my house. I will technically be homeless Wednesday night as we will be in transit to the new state.
Okay.
I can probably manage to dial in, but I will be on a mobile phone sitting in a hotel with my 1-year-old.
So understand the challenges of that for sure.